Ever since my first dog had passed away, I would always nag my parents to get a new dog because I missed having one around. My dad was on board with the idea, but my mom was going to need a little convincing. My dad and I would always look on the local animal shelter's website. One day, I got on the website and saw this beautiful dog. The dog's name was Dakota, and an older lady had found him in a Kansas truck stop and brought him all the way back to Iowa City with her. He was a year and a half old, and they said he was a golden retriever husky mix. I fell in love with the picture. After school one day, my mom and I went to Walmart, which was just happened to be down the road from the shelter. I finally convinced her to stop by and just look at him. When we got there, the shelter was closed, but we were able to look in the window where the dogs were, and he was there looking back at me in the first kennel. The love I had for him grew even more that day just because I was able to see him in person. A week or so later, my brother came home to visit. I told him about the dog, and we convinced my parents to go to the shelter with us. We got to get Dakota out and play with him. I was not going to leave the shelter without him that day. We finally convinced my mom that we should get him. That same day, we all signed the papers and set up a date to come back and pick him up to bring him home. The day my dad and I went to pick up Dakota from the shelter was the day after my 16th birthday. First, my dad and I took my new 1998 Ford Escort to get my license, and then we were off to pick up Dakota and bring him home. When we put Dakota in the back seat of my car, he got so excited he saw my fuzzy dice hanging from the rearview mirror, and he lunged forward and grabbed them. He ended up pulling the whole mirror off. After we got the mirror back up, we stopped to get some dog food on the way home. It had started raining, so I decided to be nice and pull up to pick up my dad when I saw him walking out. As I was pulling out, I saw an old friend and his mom, so I waved. I thought I had backed up enough, so I started going forward and ran right into the truck that was parked next to me. Luckily, it did no damage to the truck, but it busted my headlight, and my dad still had to walk just as far. Once we got home, we let Dakota go in the house, and he had a sudden burst of energy and ran all over. This included the couch that my mom was sitting on, which had all of her scrapbooking supplies spread out next to her. He knocked everything on the floor. I thought for sure she was going to make us take him back. Don't worry, Dakota is still a huge part of our family 5 years later, and my mom has really grown to love him.